Dude, man, how are you?
What's going on, Ken?
Just doing life. I'm looking forward to leaving for Greece for a month on Monday, Saturday. Excuse me. Yeah, this coming Saturday.
That's right.
It'll be fun.
You'd be going for months.
Yeah, I'm doing this. History is one of my favorite subjects. So I got a professor that's got a Latin professor and a Greek professor, and we're gonna go cruise through Athens, go up to the north. We'll go through Peloponnnesia. We'll do some of the islands, and I just thought it'd be fun. So.
Nice.
Yeah. Hey, well, I wanted to get together with you because I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your hardest vocal lines to sing video because I thought that was super awesome. I saw some chick do one on you and I was like, what? Come on, that's my homie there. What are you talking smack about this guy for? So I wanted you to clear the air on that one, first of all.
Well, hold on. Are you referring to, Emmy?
Yes.
Well, she wasn't really talking a lot of smack. I mean, she wasn't completely easy on me, but but that's good. I don't like anyone being easy on me. You're not easy on me.
Yeah, I know. Well, how long have we been working together? We've been working your vocals for how long? So it was before the first Katy Perry video.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think I started your course in early 2013.
Okay. Your voice has done amazing, man. You've just come so far. I was sitting there. No, okay, so I am going to be hard on you. When I was listening to the Alice in Chains thing, I went, "You have the to put that out."
I put out worse since then. I dug deeper into the archives when I did my other video, the 13 years of showing my vocal transformation.
That's cool.
I dug into the archives back from 2006. Well, you know what it is because people they think that you have they think some people just pull out a good voice out of nowhere.
Right.
And that might be the case for a very select few who are able to who are anomalies and they're able to just be great off the jump or at least for all we know.
Okay, well, so that's gonna be one of my questions. So I'm gonna go in this, and I want to talk about some of the video stuff that you have on this video here. But I like what you just said right there and then, because that's in fact I tried to do some of these. I have some questions I wrote out, and they don't have to be chronological because it's gonna bump around a little bit, and I just want to chew the fat with you. But I had coined a phrase a while back, a singer is only a singer because they have the guts to be one. And people say, oh, that's not true, you have to be born with natural talent. Well, that's true too to some extent. I know for myself, I started out as a guitar player. I wasn't a singer, and I learned to sing. And I know that you, like when I dig back at some of your earlier stuff, you had the cojones to step up to the plate and be a singer too.
Yeah.
But I want to say one thing about that is you put in the work. And you seriously put in the work, and you're still putting in the work, and it's what makes you great because you whether you like it or not, whether you feel good or not, you still get up and you do your exercises, you work out, you sing your cojones off, every day, and you're always working your craft. So repeat what you just said about how hard is it to become a singer like you?
Well, like what you just said, it takes a lot of work and a lot of attempting. To just, look, I started off singing, putting out vocal covers years ago, about 10 years ago. I'm over here trying to put out vocal covers of Alter Bridge and Soundgarden back when, I don't know why I had the crazy idea that I could do it back then. But, I mean, if I didn't do it back then and I didn't, go and attempt stuff like that just because I was like, why not? And I wasn't afraid to fail at it, then I wouldn't have started the path that got me to where I am.
Yeah, but
now.
let's talk about the irony of that. You chose off something that was kind of almost impossible for your vocal range at the time, but you just didn't give up, and you kept trying and failing and trying. But there's a book called Failing Forward. It's a really good book. And me too. I remember F sharp 4 was my highest note, and I just sounded like someone was taking a lasso around my neck, was choking me to death to get to those notes. And so I've seen such a huge transformation of you going from that to where you are now. So that's pretty remarkable. But and I don't want to get to the end thing I have here on my notes, but what would you say for all of these guys out there that are touting these vocal courses? Oh, you don't have to do scales, scales are counterproductive, or you could be an awesome singer in 30 days, or all this crap that's floating around. What would be your comments to something like that?
the time limit thing is ridiculous to me, because it's a matter of how much, you know, work you put into whatever it is that whatever, or what you do with the information that's being given to you through whatever course you're taking. It's like when I was taking your course, I listened very, very carefully to everything you were doing, and I was putting it into practice. And I was going into the message boards to make sure I was doing it right, you know, and I kept at it. And the reason why I saw an improvement was because I was really just, you know, I was taking this information and I was putting it to good use. I didn't just like rest on the fact that this is going to automatically make me a great singer,
right,
or whatever.
Right.
Or,
it's funny, Mark.
I didn't think about it. I also didn't think about it in terms of this is going to improve me in a month, or if I knew that you know I wasn't going to all of a sudden be a different singer in a week's time.
Right.
You know.
Right.
I took it and I just was patient with it, which is funny for me because I'm not really a patient person.
Neither am I. Yeah.
You know.
But it's like going to the gym. I mean, no matter what, you can only get so much gains, you know, by going to the gym incrementally, and you've got to work out, and you got to do it correctly. It's correct information. It's not just going to the gym and lifting up weights. It's knowing how to work out correctly. You know. Hey, so I want to get into this video because I loved it. What's funny about it is too. Again, I know you did a lot of cover stuff, but you went from, dare I use the word, pretty one-dimensional in your earlier stuff to being like, there's pretty much there's nothing you can't sing. And so I want to kind of go through that. I made my own shorter version of your video because there's a lot of talking and, you know, there's a lot of longer excerpts. So I just want to play it for a second. Let me go through the first one here.
Alice in Chains, Man in the Box.
We just talked about this.
I'd always put Man in the Box on a real high pedestal. The notes that are in the chorus were always the highest notes in my range back years ago.
Okay, now let me stop there for 1 second. Now that's kind of where most singers are at. Excuse me, let me get rid of, I got all kinds of windows open here. That's where a lot of singers are right now, is they kind of sing always at the top of their range, and it's this threshold, they kind of, you know, they never quite get to it, and if they could just get one more note or two more notes. But the fascinating thing is, what is that? Is that an A or is it a B? I think it's an A. Is that right? The top note?
I'm actually not. I'm the wrong person to ask.
Okay, I think it's an A.
Just kind of like, you know.
Isn't that song the key of E? Let's see, so.
I should know.
Yeah! Isn't that's okay, yeah, so I think it's an A, it might be a B, whatever. But how funny, though, that A4 that you were having trouble with then, you're doing octaves of that now on some of the other demonstrations that you're doing. Full octaves of that.
Yeah, because then I didn't understand the different areas of the voice.
Okay.
You helped me understand the different areas of the voice.
That's cool.
Yeah, I had no idea what chest was, what mix, what head voice, all that stuff. I didn't know anything. I heard these terms. I noticed that when you were talking the video, you were using a lot of the terms that I use in the chorus about compressing the voice and starting out clean, like when you're doing the Cornell scream. We'll get to that in a minute. Yeah.
You know, but that's awesome. And also about the bel canto, I love the way you expressed how covering and darkening sound as you went up was a lot easier to sing than bringing a lot of nasality into the sound, because a lot of people teach only mask and they go, it's a,
that's why I think it's funny when people like and this is not like a jab at Matt Bellamy at all. He's a brilliant singer, but when they say that, when they request a Muse vocal as one of the hardest vocal lines to sing, I think it's funny because it's actually some of the easiest stuff for me to sing.
Right.
Because he's not singing like, you know, Def Leppard.
Yeah.
You know, he's
it's head voice. It's all head voice, pure head voice. Like microcuts, like when you did microcuts, you know, exactly. Right. Yeah. All right. Well, let's cruise through this, because again, I just was having fun with this. Just it's such a joy for me. What a geeky word, but to see students and clients and colleagues and whatnot go from these stages that they go through, and just to see their growth is just super awesome. So.
I always practice Man in the Box, and I'd always butcher Man in the Box over and over again. In fact, here's a clip of me in 2009 singing it live.
What is that?
You're doing wrong there, Ken. What was I doing that?
You're pinching and squeezing into the throat. First of all, you're not opening it up to any volume. And everything's from here. You have almost zero, what did you call it? Diaphragmatic? What was the funny thing you have?
What was it? Abdominal strength.
Abdominal strength.
Zero. Yeah.
You're not using any abdominal strength here. It's all coming from the chest. So, yeah! It's got to be from down here, and instead of thinking, yeah! You're doing it from up there.
The problem was, too, if I'm going to be honest back then, was that was at a time, and I actually explained this in my other video where I was going through the transformation. That was at a time where when I practiced it, when I was in practice with those guys, I would hit it almost all the time in my way back then, which wasn't foolproof because it was like moving targets, as you say.
Yeah.
You know, like it's either I got the note or I didn't.
Yeah.
And it was a lot harder for me to get the note when I was in front of people, especially my family was in the crowd. And I always had a knack, especially back then, for choking live.
Okay, now let's talk about that because it's the psychology of singing. So there's a couple elements to that. And I got to tell a really funny story about this. And, I get a lot of different people. In fact, I'll try. Remind me if we get enough time. Remind me what are the strangest sessions, Skype sessions I've ever had, because that's another thing in and of itself. But I had this guy come, and I've shared this in a video before, where I think he was a lieutenant commander in the Navy SEALs or something, right? Just a high up guy in the Navy SEALs. And someone caught him singing karaoke like in Okinawa, Japan, or some other faraway place that his squadron was in. And so he was elected to sing the national anthem for his squad, or for this huge convention of Navy SEALs. And so he came to me and he's like super buff and his neck's this big and he's tatted from head to toe and earrings and, he might as well put a pit bull collar around his neck. The guy was just like gnarly, right? And so he says, he goes, hey, I'm going to be singing the national anthem. He says, I'd rather go on a kill mission with an X amount of percent of not making it back than I would singing the national anthem in front of, my colleagues. And I thought, how strange is that? Well, it's because his comfort zone of his expertise is a Navy SEAL. His comfort zone isn't singing the national anthem in front of his colleagues. So I actually got him to sing nursery rhymes. He was going to come through the screen and kill me, he said, literally, because he thought I was making fun of him, and I wasn't. I was trying to minimalize his, making the national anthem so bigger than life, so to speak, right? And then we went and sang stupid songs like, I've been driving down the road trying to loosen my load. I got 7 women on my mind. Those kind of songs that they're songs we never take seriously. And by the time we got through that, by the time we did the national anthem, then I made him sing it up a half step higher. Then I made him sing it up a half step higher again. So we trained a full step higher than he was used to, so that when the nerves hit and he went out to do it, he killed it. And it was, and what I wanted to get people to understand about singing is the psychology of singing is it's not about the high note. It's about good support, a relaxation response in the chest, the neck, and the throat, and good vowel placement. And working it to the point where it's second nature, you don't have to think about it. So it's interesting that like right now you bust out, you can probably not even warmed up, you can bust out singing a lot higher than you could, way back when you could. But let's play a little bit more of this. This is fun. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit of this because I don't need to embarrass you that much. People can go back and check your original video. I love your facial comments. He was like, whoa.
Okay, so
anyway.
Was it so hard to just go...
Killer, man. That sounds awesome. All right, let me get to the next one here. Now, I'm going to go through this and then we're going to have some combo on life. Dream On. Let's hear your dream on. So
I actually think I don't think that was my strongest attempt in that video.
Okay.
I will admit that myself.
And why? Technically, why?
Technically, why?
Yeah. Or why? Period.
Well, it was he's not. Well, I already knew that the, if it's accurate to Steven Tyler. He's doing more of a Janis Joplin thing, where he's it's kind of like a wisp, like that AC/DC, distorted head voice thing. And I was kind of going more into, I was like trying to do more of like a, I don't know, like maybe like a Judas Priest type,
or Jeff Tate, or something like that. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And it just I don't know. I think I could do it better. I don't know.
You could do it better. I was going to say that because the way you approached your head voice was a lot wimpier than when you did it with that the aria piece that you did for early or later on in it. I didn't. That's on the second version of your hardest vocal lines to sing. What was
you're talking about what the opera stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I forget her name was, but someone asked you to do a piece of some opera, and when you did the Phantom of the Opera thing too, both of those things. But anyway, yeah. So. Better support, a brighter timbral sound would help that sound a lot. Anyway, but we're going to listen to it.
This is the part of the song that everyone waits for. If you ever see anybody try to sing this in karaoke, everyone's like, oh, here comes the part. Let's see this person butcher this part. But that's not going to happen right now. Dream on, dream on, dream on, dream on.
No, by the way, you're saying, dream on, dream on. You're real heavy on the sound, and he's really dream on. He's real frontal and real masky in the sound. He's not carrying up.
Yeah, that's what I noticed too. Because you would always say, like, you know, if you start heavy at the start, it's harder to kind of navigate into the.
Yeah, it's harder to shed the weight, to get rid of that weight on the bottom to go up top. So you're kind of setting yourself up for failure right now when you overbloat the bottom end like this, whereas he's really thin on the sound as he goes up. You know, you want to get it up there, right? Okay, that was a little bit of a fail. That was a little bit of a fail for you right there. But I know you can do it because I've heard you hit those notes. So that's, you know, anyway.
That did.
And
I guess that was the point of the hardest vocal lines video. Was the whole point was to kind of just do it on the spot, and then, you know, some of them I would fail, some of them I wouldn't, type thing. You know?
Yeah, right.
And I'm okay with it. I'm fine with that because, you know what, the average singer, or even the above average singer, they can't sing every little thing,
right,
you know, all the time,
right.
Like, you know, so.
Well, the other thing too is, let's be realistic about this. You're taking on the most epic pieces ever recorded, and you're sitting there in your seat doing them bam, 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 bam. You know, I mean, so let's be realistic about this. I actually did a version of this, so on the ones that I did versions of, or if I have students, I'll just throw them in the description text so I don't like monopolize our time on that, because I want to get to some life questions with you. But anyway, it was a valiant effort, a little bit of a fail for my student Anthony there, but I know you can do better, so we'll talk about that. This one here is kind of interesting that someone actually take on me.
For some reason or another, people look for that high note because it's the high note in the song, so your mind is tricked to just think that the note is so high when it's not that high. I'll be gone,
now what was kind of cool about that was when you pulled back off that sound, you went into a mixed voice, like you talked about when you did the end of the song, when you thought that was the more phenomenal note and I agree, that's a harder note at the end than just hitting that one note. But you still did it in the spirit of the way he treated it all the way through the song. It's pretty tough to do that and to nail it over and over again. That's why I said you morphing yourself in all these different vocal styles is pretty freaking cool. So anyway.
Thanks, man.
Hey, I only give praise where praise is due. I'm not a stroker. I if it's not cool, you know me.
I know. I know. Trust me, I know. And that's why, you know, that's why you do what you do, and I come to you because I don't like being told that, oh, that's very good, when it's not.
Yeah, I won't stroke you, but I'll stroke you here because you did a great job on that. Dream on, not so much. Let's continue. Here we go.
The chorus from Chandelier by Sia.
No, by the way, this was so epic. I said to myself, you know what? Anthony's putting a fire under my butt and making me want to sing this. Like, I heard this and I went, dude, that's better than Sia. I'm like, yeah. So, I'm serious. It was killer. Sia's gonna lose her voice. You can hear her voice splitting every time she does that little sound.
Because it's not like part of her. That's like part of her style. What people like know her for.
Right.
But like, it always sounds to me like she's like if you were to talk to her after one of her performances, her voice would crack while she's trying to talk to you.
Yeah, it's a very unhealthy sound. I love Sia. She's a great songwriter, doing awesome stuff. No diss on her whatsoever. But from a vocal health standpoint, it's not a healthy sound. In fact, it's a lot of people, when people say, hey, can you do the David Lee Roth, that hooty fluty thing with that little tri-vocal sort of sound that comes to it. What that is it represents he's lost his head voice falsetto altogether, and he's struggling to get that note out, and it just comes out in 3 different tones because he's got complete dysphonia and the chords have completely separated. So
that's what it is. That's what that is.
Yeah, it's complete dysphonia. It's gone. His head voice, his falsetto register is vanished, and so he's taking a ramrod flamethrower of air across the chord to just muscle out anything he can. That is not a healthy sound. Can you teach me how to do that? No. So anyway, and that is also true when we get to the fry thing. I want to talk to you about that because you're doing it right, and so few people understand how to do that correctly. So we'll get into that in a second here. But all right, I'm playing the chandelier thing because people are just on my channel happy to hear this.
I'm gonna swing from the chandelier, from the chandelier. I'm gonna live like tomorrow doesn't exist, like it doesn't exist. I'm gonna fly like a bird of the night. Feel my tears as they dry. Gonna swing like from the chandelier, from the chandelier.
The high
Yeah. What's funny about that was that I think that was like, I was trying to do it in the original style, and I just realized that I was like, you know what? I can hit these notes, I can sing it, but I'm just gonna do it in a style that I know well right now, just because I don't know, it sounded almost like weak trying to sing it like her, because obviously the difference here is that she's a female and I'm a male, and it's
hey, wait a minute, that's not politically correct right now.
Oh, right. Yeah, but still, I don't know what her vocal type is or whatever, but
yeah, she sings in the alto contralto range for the most part, but mostly in the alto range. She doesn't really have she's not in the soprano range that I've heard, But anyway, I think that's the best piece on your whole thing for me all the way through. I'm like, dang, that was great. So anyway, that was fun to hear. All right, let's check out this next one here.
Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You."
Okay.
Not this one. I'm not doing this.
That's not bad right there. That right there, you're opening up to the ah vowel, and you're really dropping the vowel, and you're really got control of the vowel. Before, you were kind of being funny about it. With a metal version, when you backed off the distortion and you went into that pure ah vowel, that's about where she is on her vowel as well. So that's pretty cool. You didn't do it. You didn't do like all that stuff, but
Low notes. How low can you go? Here's challenging.
Okay, so like I did a version of that too. I did what did I do? I did Rings of Fire, like you did, and then I did Lowrider. I'll throw those in the description too, just those sections so people can check it out. But you were talking about how low you could go. Actually, that's not true. You can go lower than that because I've heard the resonance of your voice. But when you train to sing higher, your placement is higher. So if you've come off singing a metal piece or something higher, it's really hard to go down, scoop down, and get those notes. So you're better off waking up in the morning going, drinking a cup of coffee, and then, starting to do some of your lower registration.
That's usually when I do my low singing stuff.
Yeah? What's your lowest note right now? Have you worked out today? Right here, try to go down.
I can't go down. No, not right now. I can't.
Good effort. All right, that's fine. But that was cool. This is great because you're still matching the tonal qualities. Cash doesn't really go that low in some of his stuff. But on Lowrider...
I noticed that about, it's funny because in live, I've actually looked up live versions of Ring of Fire, and there's like they're like a step or a half step up a lot of the time from what the original is.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
Yeah, which is weird.
It's a little weird, but I can understand it because, like, you know, I guess naturally when you're in a situation where you have more adrenaline, your voice kind of does get a little higher.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, not only that, you can't project that well in a lower register unless you're a true baritone, like in a barbershop quartet or something. So it's hard to cut the band. So it's easier, you know, instead of us guys tuning down a half step to E flat when we're trying to sing a Def Leppard song, he tunes up a half step to get, you know, some of the projection out. So that's correct. And he doesn't have a lot of bright tone in his voice like you do either, so...
You do the Ring of Fire ending low notes.
Okay, so let's hear this.
Ring of fire.
Ring of fire.
Chris Cornell's scream in Cochise.
Isn't it Coach Cheese, by the way, but...
Someone called me out on saying it wrong. Well, to be honest, I've never heard it pronounced, and I don't even know what the hell. I just never knew. I would always say Cochise.
All right. Well, you're gonna redeem yourself right now. Check it out.
Scream.
There goes your head. No.
Yeah.
Okay, but I did a version of this too, and I also did a couple distortion versions on how to sing with distortion, and we've discussed this a lot. Would you say that you're really stressing out your chord, or would you say you're relaxing into a state of distortion instead of squeezing off and killing yourself?
No, it feels relaxed.
Right.
It does feel relaxed.
Right.
Like you have to once you get to that sound, it's actually, you feel like you can do it for 30, 40 seconds.
Right. Correct. Exactly.
Because you're not, like as you say, you're using very little air.
Right.
You know,
you're compressing in air, using false folds, and they're just kind of, you know, rattlesnake like, you know, percolating off your folds, and it's a lot easier to sing. But I hear other guys doing it, and like a lot of the growl stuff and some of this other stuff. Wow, those guys are not going to talk in the next 5 years. I mean, the way they do that is just, man, I don't know.
I don't practice the really extreme vocals. I kind of try to stay away from altogether because, and if I do them, it's very, very, you know, I'll do it a select few, very short amount of time. So I'm not doing it all the time, like you know, like as a once in a while thing.
Right.
But I don't. Obviously there are people who are metal vocalists, who are hardcore metal vocalists, who have dedicated their whole craft to that, and you know they got to practice all these different forms of singing that way. And I don't even want to get to a position where I'm practicing that stuff because that means that I would have to sing in that style more than I'm willing to sacrifice my voice for.
Right, exactly.
You know?
Right. And there's a lot of newer artists that are out there doing that right now, but man, it's going to be pretty short-lived, and they're not going to be able to really sing a tune after doing that for very long. So, but yeah. Anyway, I'm just encouraging a lot of younger guys out there too that want to sound like that all the time. And what's that chick's the chick from like the Ukraine or something? What's that band? I wish I could think of it off the top of my head. It's like an astrological sign, Pisces or whatever. Their song is called Pisces, I guess. Anyway, you know, it's interesting because she sounds like a guy doing it. I almost wonder if they put an octaver on her voice to get her to go down that low. But anyway, let's check this out.
Scream, if you do it incorrectly, could damage the voice. Michael Bolton, how am I supposed to live without you?
Okay, now this guy is really underrated. Like what you said. I did a version with Adam Spizzo, and I'll put his version also in the description. Try doing some Bolton. The guy sings really high, and some of his stuff, the way he approaches his vowels and stuff, pretty tough guy to sing for anybody. You know what I mean?
Because it's like full like chest and mix, like
yeah,
but a
exactly.
real chest.
Right.
Like I feel like it's like mostly chest.
It is. Have you noticed too, like the amount of air that Don Henley adds in his voice? How hard that is to sing when he sings up really high, also. Because he's in like this constant mixed voice, and it's really hard to get to have a certain percentage of chest in it to where it doesn't sound like falsetto all the time. And you've got to like really, really pay attention. I did a version of what's that? I did a duet with Sarah Loera. We'll talk about her in a second. But in fact, Sarah, speaking of metal stuff, we did Chandelier with her. I'll throw that in the description tag too, but that way they can see, I have different students doing different things, and it's kind of cool to see other people do whatnot. So, all right, so let's, by the way, if you want a hard vocal to sing, do the end of what I did on Painkiller and see if you can pull it off. Because you were talking about songs that have like a really long expanse, and there was one that you were doing that was 30 seconds long or something, and you didn't quite get to the end. Yeah, try at the end of Painkiller the way I did it, because I sang that whole song in chest, and Rob does a mixed voice and a lot of head voice in it, and I belted through the whole thing. That's a really tough tune to do. So anyway, all right, let's move on here.
This is truly a difficult song to sing. It requires a lot of abdominal. A lot of abdominal strength, you know what I mean? You gotta have a lot of this. So good.
He is good.
Now that is abdominal strength.
You're right.
Alright, now let's watch me do it.
Okay, now by the way, you're singing the bottom too hard. I'm surprised you're able to get up to the top like that. He doesn't sing the bottom that hard, and he saves it for going up top. That's the space that he's in, with a lot more pharyngeal spread in the front of the face like that. What's that?
That's why I was able to get to the next word.
Right, exactly, because you spread this out and you thinned out the bottom. Sounds good though.
Jeff Buckley.
Now, by the way, I'm gonna get to Buckley in a second. He was a rock singer way back up, up in San Francisco area, and I've heard other people say, he should have stayed in the rock vein, and maybe he should have, because he was hanging with, the guys from Journey and some other people, whatnot. And the main guitar player, Bolton was, yeah. Yeah, he used to do rock stuff, and he switched over to do like a love ballad thing, and that's what, his career took off on. We're going to talk about Buckley now. I love what you said about him, because I've said exactly the same thing. I did a version with Gabriella of Grace on this. We took it up 2 or 3 tones, I think, to higher than his version, but that scream at the end is killer. I kind of focused on that. Let's check it out.
Grace. So Jeff Buckley wasn't really human. His technique was impeccable and so much lung capacity and control. But not only that, he was completely uninhibited. Let's watch me sing Grace. Nope. I did not sustain the end note as long as Jeff Buckley does the darkness.
You know what? Let's talk about though for a second, okay? What you did have in that was the intensity and the passion of the way that he sang it. And, I hear a lot of people going, Jeff Buckley's off pitch and this and that. I'm like, when you said uninhibited, there was this old story. As you know, I've traveled a lot for soccer with my son. We've had a lot of conversations, you and me. And we were in Argentina one time. I can't remember if it was in Argentina or if it was an Argentine talking about it. But they were talking about their home team failing them at the end of a playoff game, a soccer game. And so as poor as they were, they all left their shoes in the stadium because their team didn't leave it all on the field. Let me say that again. They all left their shoes and went home with no shoes. A very poor country. I mean, Argentines would beg to differ because they like to think they're Paris in the middle of South America or something. But they all left their shoes because they were so upset that their team didn't show up for them, leaving it on the field. And I bring that as this kind of an analogy. Every time I've seen Buckley's stuff, he leaves it all on the field. It doesn't matter. He just puts it. He doesn't care if he's going to die. So he's uninhibited and he tries things and he doesn't, did you see the one thing he did, stepped in and did an orchestral piece, part of an aria on something. He just walks in off an airplane and does this thing. He does this thing and he does this killer job. I'm like, dude. So, it's kind of like what you're doing right now. You're uninhibited. I don't care what people think. I'm just going to try it. But that's what makes you great. That's what makes you great. I don't care. I don't care what people think. I care what I think. You might care what Ken Tamplin thinks. I'm not going to like what you do or not. But in the end, you are able to go from one thing to the next thing and grow demonstrably because you experiment and you try cool stuff. And that was the epitome of Jeff Buckley. So I'm glad you brought him up. That was cool.
What's
that?
With Jeff Buckley. I mean, just to kind of like add to that, you know, that attempt on Grace, you know, to pull off that long note and then go to that whole run that you just showed right there, after singing everything before that with the intensity, is exactly why it's tough. Because like that note in and of itself, okay, yeah, you can hit the length of it, right? And I can do that right now. I can do that, whatever. But after coming off of all that shit beforehand,
Yep.
That's where it's like.
Yep, absolutely. I agree. That's what makes this genius. And I think that's why, like, I guess like Jimmy Page and Robert Plant used to go watch him live. I'm like, wow, like Led Zeppelin's watching me right now. How cool would that be? You know? But he didn't care. You know what I mean? It's a shame we lost him way too early. It's a bummer. We're going to go into a thing called, I did this with Katie Shearer here, Shearer, so we did a version of that, but I like your version. You're kind of a caricature of it, so let's take a listen to this right now. Check it out.
Single love, just a heart. There's a chance we can make it now. We're never till the sun goes down.
Now, I confess, when this band came out, I hope they're not listening, I couldn't tell if it was a Spinal Tap joke or not. Like,
right. Yeah, I didn't think it was really. I thought it was like. I remember thinking that I remember thinking it just didn't sound serious to me.
right. And then all of a sudden, yeah, you know, everyone just flocked to it, and it was like, you know, now Spinal Tap is touring like a real rock band. Well, you know, the Darkness is, you know, doing their thing, and then they kind of came into their own and did some cool stuff. But I think we're coming to a close on that, and I got some other questions for you. Yeah, I think that was the last bit on that, which is cool. Well, I had some life questions because you got a chance to grow your life a lot. And so, what were the most intimidating lines, and at least the hardest lines to sing of this out the gate? What would you say were the hardest, most intimidating as they came up to you as a challenge?
I would say, well, Jeff Buckley.
Okay.
That's for the reasons that you said, you know, that reasons that you articulated even better than I did, which was that, you know, he put it all out on the field. Like, you know, it's like, it's one thing if you have, if you have a technique to be able to sing those notes. It's, you know, another thing if you're able to deliver the performance like that's needed for the song.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's why a lot of when people talk about the challenging vocal lines, they talk about "I Will Always Love You" by Whitney Houston or some Mariah Carey songs. Well, you know, sometimes it's not. You don't necessarily have to go flat and hit all the wrong notes to butcher a song.
Yes.
You just have to. All you have to do is sometimes all it takes to butcher a song is to sing it without the soul and the intensity that's needed for the song.
Yeah, true story.
If you are hitting the notes.
Yep. That's
So,
a true story. Well, that begs another question. And then with all of this American Idol and all of this, you know, X Factor and, you know, all these TV shows, America's Got Talent, Britain's Got Talent, whatever, why are we so preoccupied with the high note rather than just greatness in general? And then we've seen this with Dimash, for example. Like, the guy his voice is utterly insane. And I did see the diss that the one, you know, engineer guy said on him, Great Britain, who, you know, called him out saying, well, just because you can doesn't mean you should. But it's kind of a bummer because when you enter into a competition like this, they're expecting the high notes, they're expecting craziness. They're not expecting Bob Dylan to come out and write a great song. They're expecting vocal calisthenics. So what would your comments be? Is it all about the high note? I mean,
No.
what is it about then?
Well, it's about commitment to the words, which rarely anyone ever does anymore.
Give me an example of that.
Like just I don't. What I mean by that is how often do you when you're singing something that you wrote or even a cover song of someone else, do you actually are you singing the words as if you were saying the words to whoever it is the words were about, like almost like you're saying the words as if it were a statement in life. Like you're actually communicating that to someone.
Instead of just parroting something you memorized.
Yeah, instead of just like, making sure that I gotta sing this right and, I gotta put this kind of swag on here, and all these things are going through your mind, and now all your mouth is doing is shaping these words that are meaningless to you because you're not even thinking about lyrics. All you're thinking about is how to sing it and making sure you sound good while you do it. And I feel that most people on those shows, and I don't know, like a lot of different times that I watch, like television performances or whatever, most people are doing that. Well, sometimes a lot of the television performances aren't even live.
Yeah, right.
Let alone commitment to the lyrics and the words.
Well, it's interesting, Anthony, that you say that because every time I get behind a red light, and for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about in the studio, I literally say to the person on the other end of the glass, I don't believe a word of that. I don't care how good you think you sang it. I don't believe a word of it. You're not living it out. There's no expression to this. Yeah, your lips move, but I can't hear what you're saying. I mean, there's like, but I become comfortable. Ironically, that's a song where I go, wow, he's living that out. It's kind of a creepy song too. Or here's a funny story for you. I used to live in LA all my life actually, and I don't know how true this story is, but I heard it from I heard it from a very famous engineer who happened to be there, so I'm hoping that the totality of this is correct. There was the album that Bruce Springsteen had did that, hey little girl, is your daddy home? Did he go ahead and leave you all alone? I got a bad desire, right? Well, there was a guy who was a song plugger, what was his name? Don Grierson? I forget, Don something. And when Don said something, everyone listened, okay? And apparently it was at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I want to say it was like at Ocean Way or Conway or one of the bigger studios in LA. And Bruce had just wrapped up his album, and it was done. And people were packing up, and Don comes walking in with this song and goes, hey, I know it's late, you gotta hear it. You gotta do this song. And Bruce is like, no freaking way, man, we're done. Album's in the can, we're good to go. He says, I don't care. You didn't listen to what I said. I said, you got to do the song. And he's like, oh my gosh. So everyone stops for a minute and they listen to the song. And he's like, wow, guys, let's just put the stuff back up. Let's go ahead and reset everything back up again. When you listen to that song, and I'm not even like the biggest Bruce Springsteen fan, right? You listen to the song, hey little girl, is your daddy home? Did he go ahead and leave you all alone? I got a bad desire. Oh, my heart's on fire. I'm like, whoa, I'm in the story with this guy. I'm like committing adultery in my mind. I'm like, no, get me out of here. But he told the story so well, and he sang it so well. It was like a first take. They punched a couple little things here, and that was it. And I'm like, that is storytelling. That is like Bob Dylan. That's like, guys that come in and just take your heart. That's why older country music, not so much newer country music, was so good. There were these great storytellers. But anyway, okay, well, let's go. I'm going to ask you what your greatest musical influences are and why.
Greatest musical influences. Well, I mean, there's no denying Metallica because that's just since I was a kid. They were my first favorite band, like the first band that I was obsessed with, and I still listen to them today. Funny thing is, I actually listen to the albums Load and Reload a lot more today than I do the older albums that a lot of the metal elitists say is their only good work.
Right.
So I was raised in the mid to late '90s. So when Metallica was selling out and cutting their hair, I was being introduced to that music. That was my introduction to them. So it's funny how a band can go, and I guess that's another reason why I look up to them too, is because like that's a band that's appealed to so many different types of generations.
True. Yeah.
So yeah, as far as influence, I would say them, obviously Queen, for obvious reasons. I mean, Freddie's I think he's almost everybody's influence.
Yeah. True story.
To some degree. And who else? Like, what else do I have?
Interesting. You go from Metallica to Queen. They're very different. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, the other thing about Queen is it's all like they were known for being an eclectic rock band that was fusing all these different genres together seamlessly. Also, there's a whole theatrical element, which hits home for me because I was brought up in a heavy musical theater background because my parents were really are very into, and also I'm from New York, so they're very into Broadway. We would go see Broadway shows since I was 7 years old. Yeah, I've seen so many Broadway shows, especially from in the 90s. I mean, I remember one of my favorite shows I saw was Jekyll and Hyde on Broadway in the 90s. It was fantastic. This is all stuff that's ingrained in me. So that's another reason why theatrical, those real dramatic styles are, aligned with me. So it's that's, I guess, Muse is along that vein as well.
Mm-hmm.
And who else? I'm. Yeah.
It wasn't meant to be a trick question, but yeah, I get it. Like, it's kind of interesting in the 70s, you had all these Tommy, these rock operas and, Rocky Horror Picture, like all these different things like that. And they were kind of synonymous too at the same time with, Broadway musicals like Rent, Jesus Christ Superstar, like all that stuff. And that spawned, and even Pink Floyd The Wall, all that stuff spawned all these other, big theatrical movements, which were great. And those are really tough. I got to meet a couple of guys in the band, of course. Roy Thomas Baker was their producer. Used to live in Beverly Hills also, and he was actually very gracious with my band and, let us work with some stuff that he had a crazy studio in his home, and very, very, very interesting guy. Because a lot of times, like the fifth Beatle, for example, when what's his name? Gosh, I just washed my brain and I can't do a thing with it. Cuckoo, cuckoo. What's his name? That was the fifth Beatle that was the producer. Oh my gosh, I'll think of his name in a second. He just passed away here recently. I should know this, holy cow, I'm embarrassing myself. Anyway, him, I'll think of his name in a minute. But Roy Thomas, these guys behind the scenes don't get the credit that they deserve for all the stuff that they contributed, but Freddie was just a crazy force. But it wasn't just because he brought a lot of stuff and merged it, amalgamated it together in the style of Queen. It's everything he did made sense and was cool. A lot of people now try to take, let's do an electro jazz thing, and let's put it with a rock thing, and let's we'll bring in some house music, and then we'll do an opera. That's not, just because you do something different or what you do outside the box is not what makes you cool. It's what you do inside the box that makes you cool. You know what I mean? People throw crap against the wall, feces against the wall, and they call it art. That's not art. You're throwing crap against the wall. You know what I mean? So anyway, but yeah, so theatrical stuff. By the way, I was actually on the same label with Metallica. It was Music for Nations. The owner was Martin Hooker, and I was in a band called Shout at the time. And, it was another one of those times where music was changing, and we really didn't take Metallica that seriously when they first came out. I got to meet Rob Rock, their producer, for a while. What's his name? Mike Tachi, which was one of the main engineers on the record and stuff. So I got to learn some tricks and whatnot from them. And it wasn't until later I really understood how tight they were and how much I really appreciated it. But that was in an era where singing, was all that mattered. And they're going, Enter Sandman. And yet at the same time, when Motorhead was on the scene, they were borderline a punk band, really. I mean, they were kind of like a punk bar band, but there was no denying Motorhead. They were just bad A. I mean, just, you go see Motorhead and Lemmy will change your mind no matter what with you, So anyway, all right, let's get to some other stuff here. I'll think of the Beatles. I can't believe my brain is so fried. How hard is it, we talked about to get good singing, we already answered that. What kind of music gear do you use?
Everything is just, since I'm just constantly doing production stuff, I mean, it's all in Logic.
Okay.
I use an SM7B microphone.
Right.
For the most part now, the Cloud Lifter, which is basically, you know what a Cloud Lifter is.
Uh-huh.
It takes the signal, because, dynamic microphone.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it pretty much gives it a signal that would be comparable to a condenser mic.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of if I'm using guitars and bass, it's just all direct in whatever plugins I have in my program.
Okay,
That's
so
just-
you're using
that's
predominantly
just-
all inline plug-in stuff through Logic.
Yeah, I mean, even with my band, and when we play live, we have a whole our live setup is ampless. It's all through the program. So I guess that's just maybe that's the new way of doing things, or maybe not. Maybe we're just
Well, I mean, if some people would argue now that if you don't use that gear, you don't sound modern and hip. You know what I mean? Because there's so many plugins that everyone identifies with, or there's a certain kind of boxy, compressed sound that it provides that most people are used to hearing. So if there's anything that's more free or has a lot more space, I know you know that I have an awards in engineering and stuff like that too. So I come from a different school. I've got radars and I got Nyquist converters and I've got very expensive microphones and big tube preamps and stuff. So my sound is kind of more old school than a lot of what's going on, with a lot of the newer generation. But
I love that stuff though.
What's that?
I love that sound though.
Yeah, me too.
I don't understand it, and I'm at a point now where it's like. I don't know if I'm ever going to learn it, but I like working with people who use that stuff. Right.
Well, it's a lifetime study. It's not like something you wake up one day and you buy an expensive mic and preamp and then, ta-da, it sounds great. You got to know how to use it. So how hard is it to make your videos, and what actually goes into making a 10-second song video?
It's just if I take a song, if I'm doing like a song in different styles, I'll divide up into different sections with all the lyrics, and I'll look at the lyrics, I'll see, now I ask people what styles they want me to do on social media, and I'll just take a bunch of screenshots of styles that I'm interested in and whatever, or especially if I know what song it is that I'm doing, and whatever styles I think would be interesting for the song or be a good fit. And then I go and I look at the lyrics and I look at the styles and I see, okay, what fits what style. Sometimes there'll be a thing that is said that will make sense for a band. Maybe it's like a reference to another band's song,
I've noticed that. I've noticed coherency in a lot of your lyrics from one. I don't think people know that about you, is that when you're putting these videos together, you're actually kind of telling a story with the snippets that you choose. It's not just random pieces of the song. Maybe sometimes it is, but I've seen a lot of your videos where you're actually making sense with one section to the next section to the next section, which is really cool. Very hard to do.
Right. Yeah, I try to do that because it makes it a little bit more interesting and more about the actual thing than it is about any kind of gimmick of me doing impressions or something like that. Because I've gotten away from that now because it's more so about just presenting a piece, I guess, and then basically giving people an option of what they. It's more like it's actually a presentation of different options. Okay, like people who follow me,
right?
Of what they want to hear the song in, because then they vote, and then I do a full version.
That's cool.
So that's really what it's turned into.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me, for my own amusement and entertainment value, is I have two kids that are grown. And we used to see, like Disney movies, for example. And, it was entertaining for the adults because they'd have all these meta messages and all this kind of nuance for the adults. The kids are laughing their butts off because they like the initial reason they're going to see the movie, and the adults are coming for the innuendo, which is funny, right? Well, they come for the kids, but they get to enjoy the innuendo, which is great. Do you have any funny music related stories to share? And it could be touring, it could be anything, or maybe even embarrassing things, or what are some of the more outrageous things that you've experienced in music?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
No?
I really, there isn't anything that sticks out.
Has there been any embarrassing things, live? Has there been anything that,
He's screwing up Man in the Box. I mean, that was pretty bad. I mean, that is the one thing that I find really hard to recover from is when I crack on stage. My problem with me is that my spirit gets broken real fast. And it ruins the entire show for me. Well, even if it's just one crack.
You know, it's kind of funny. I think it was. I can't remember if it was Van Cliburn or it was a famous piano player. It was the guy that used to be the comic piano player that was really great at classical music. I can't remember any of these names anymore. It was like Van Cliburn or something. But he said, your worst embarrassment or lifetime embarrassment is someone's momentary amusement. So in other words, what is so catastrophic to you that's so huge is just one person's little and they move on. But in your mind, it's like, oh my gosh, the world has collapsed because this thing happened. You know, so your momentary, you know, crack or whatever that goes on for the rest of your life that you still remember to this day, you know, is some guy walked up, oh dude, that sucked. Let's go have a beer. You know,
that is very true. It doesn't stop it from being embarrassing, but it is true.
Exactly.
And
I was going to ask you.
Well, that goes like just to kind of like that reminds me of Freddie because and that's another reason why I consider him like a great influence because like there have been plenty of times I've seen live, especially now that the internet is as expansive as it is, and there are rare footage and clips resurfacing every day and stuff. And I've seen performances of Freddie where he doesn't sound that good. He was a master of when he knew. You can tell when he knew that his voice wasn't going to be able to do certain things. He would take his voice in other places. Yeah. And nobody cared.
Right.
Because he was such a good performer. He was like a magician.
Yeah, he's a showman.
Such a good performer. And if his voice did crack, you could tell that like. It's almost as if he didn't even know it happened because he didn't skip a beat.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I look up to. Yeah. Because mistakes do happen, and people actually and how you handle them will determine how catastrophic it is.
Big time. Yeah. Yep. I have other stories about that, but I don't want to monopolize it because I have a couple more quick questions and then we're going to wrap here in a second. But, when did you start getting interested in music, and did your parents encourage you? So you're going to like Broadway shows and stuff. Did they encourage your music early on, or
Oh yeah, definitely.
How long ago did you start music then?
I started off on the bass. My mother started my brother on the drums and me on the bass guitar.
Oh, cool.
Like when I was 11 and he was like 13 or 12,
So you've been doing it a long time.
Yeah. Well, like.
What about taking your voice seriously though? How long have you been doing that?
Singing I started singing in 2006.
How old were you?
I was 19.
So you, like me, you didn't start to take your voice seriously till you're about 19. That's true for me. Interesting. Right. So a lot of these people that think they're all washed up when they're 19 because they didn't start when they were 6, you're living proof that's not true.
Well, the older you get, the more you realize that these, like, that the ages that you used to think were so old are actually extremely young.
Yeah. True story. Young. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like. It's great that you start singing at a younger age than 19, but if you start at 19, that's still a very young age.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, closing statements. Do you have any advice for upcoming musicians on making it in the business? Do you have any suggestions for your fan base, my fan base?
The business has changed so much, and it keeps changing. I don't even know what you're referring to when you say the business.
Well, I mean, it could be how you present your art on social media. Right now you're able to.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like the business is kind of like has taken so many different shapes and forms. And I just think that there's no there are a million different ways to get. To be successful now. There are a million different ways, and the only thing I can say is to find whatever it is that you're passionate about and that you love to do. Find one, pick one path, and then give it 100% and don't look back. Now, of course, but this is advice that I would take myself, because there's so many different layers once you've experienced the kind of success that I have with my channel, and then all the different levels that goes through, you know, over the years. Some people will not understand that just yet because they haven't experienced it yet. So so putting myself in the position of before all of that, and before all that started, I would say that you should be having a lot of fun on the internet. You should be a fun personality. You should every idea that you have that you think is funny or quirky or could be fun, don't tell a bunch of people about the ideas and expect them to be excited as you are, especially if it's a new, unique idea that they've never heard of. You should just do it. You should do it and show them afterwards, because the more people you tell about this stuff, don't talk too much, because you can talk and then things don't get done, and you might tell it to the wrong person that'll discourage you. Just keep it to yourself, do it, have fun, because being a fun, funny presence on the internet is what the internet audience wants to see. So that comes first, always. You know? And you can't get anywhere. Like, people don't want to see a desperate person on the screen trying to make a living.
Right.
They don't want to see that.
You're right. That's true.
You know?
That's funny. That's absolutely true.
That's it. That's what I got to say. Is just experiment and have fun, and then once things catch on, you'll understand the first part of what I said.
Yeah, exactly. You have to kind of live it to understand that too. So, well, dude, thank you for taking an hour with us, man. It'll be fun for people just to get to know you a little better. And you know, one of the other things, Anthony, that I've always loved about you, and I'll close with this, is you're just a real guy. You know what I mean? And success, whatever that means, hasn't gone to your head. But you know, you also realize too that there's a lot more to life. You have a lot of growing still left to do. We all do. And so you look at life like as a gift. And you take it every day as a gift, and you don't rest on your laurels. You're always pushing, moving forward, doing cool stuff, and you know, and then you're not afraid to lift others up. And that's one of the things I've seen about a lot of rock stars is they love to unplug their amps because they're a minute over on their opening act time, and you're the kind of guy that would walk out on stage and sing one of their songs with them, you know, which is really cool. So I admire that about you, man. Anyway, well, God bless all you do, and looking forward to more 10-second song stuff. And until next time, peace.
Thanks. Anytime you need me, I'll come on anytime.
Okay, sounds awesome, Anthony. Thank you, bro.
All right, man.
All right.
Thank you.
God bless, dude. Hey guys, if you like what you heard, please like and subscribe to my channel by clicking on the subscribe button. That will actually take you to another page where you want to click on the bell icon, and it opens up a menu, and the menu has notifications on it where there's a little box you can check where it says send me all notifications for this channel. Check the box and then click the save button, and you'll get notifications from me every time I have a cool video come out. Okay? Thanks guys. Peace out.